I guess I can say hello, YouTube. Uh, First video in quite a while. I wanted to talk about possibly one of my favorite games of all time, and this is Changeling the Lost. I guess I'll have to explain what the game is. You play as a human who was once kidnapped by the True Fae or the Gentry, beings of incomprehensible morality. They are incredibly Lovecraftian, I guess I can say. They are absolutely terrifying. They can take you for whatever reason. It could be like you like the same cartoons, or um, it, it could just be anything. And now I'm going to guess why this game is among what I would consider to be a pantheon of just amazing games that I think everyone should try out. It is a game that I actually highly recommend for people. I would say has therapeutic uses, especially like, say, trauma, which is actually one of the core things in the game. It is not just trauma for trauma's sake, but it is really, I consider, to be one of the best story elements used in Changeling the Lost, is the idea of having trauma and healing from said trauma for each character. I think that's really the best way to describe Changeling the Lost. Not even just that, but you also get some cool powers, some incredibly dangerous enemies. The huntsmen are incredibly strong, and they can be incredibly frightening. And the gentry are these. Really, the best way to describe gentry is they don't have. They typically don't have physical bodies, but they are an overlooming threat. These are, if a gentry shows up, be prepared. Grab yourself some fucking cold iron and just start beating the ever loving fuck out of one. That is really like, you know, that's your campaign, and it's fucking awesome. Uh, I guess I can do a little story synopsis for what I mean. Say you. Oh man. You're a person who has recently escaped the Fae, and you come to find that everything around you, everything in the real world, because you were taken from their land of Arcadia, you're not entirely mentally sound, and you're seeing the world from a completely new light. And definitely one of your main goals is to get away from the Fae and try and live a life of freedom, because they do not like it whenever you run away. They will grab you back, they will take you back by force. And then you have, uh, one of the core elements, I think, that is rather the therapeutic side, is the support structure of face of changeling society. Is you have these uh, these different courts. They coincide with the seasons, especially if you live in America. They coincide with each of the four seasons, and they each also represent a certain emotion of kind of healing. There is the Spring Court of Denial. These are your kind of hedonistic. They also tend to be healers. They're rather hedonistic. You have your Summer Court of Wrath. The Summer Court of Wrath are your warriors. These are the people. They see wrath as the rejection of further abuse. Then you have the Court of Fear, the Autumn Court. These are your scholars, your lore keepers. They keep everything kind of in check. Um, and they are they can be very good at what they do. They're also kind of they're somewhat the therapists as well. Uh, and then you have your Court of Sorrow, the most depressing court. This is your Winter Court. These are characters that mourn what they have lost, and they tend to be rather stoic. Uh, this court is really, really stoic compared to the other courts, and it's definitely among one of my like personally. I would align myself definitely with like the court of the spring court, but in terms of like a lot of characters that I like to do, the winter court, it's really, really just it's also a good court. They are your spies. Uh, each of them kind of has a flaw. The flaw of denial, it's, they don't want to kind of accept reality of the situation that they are in. The court of wrath is sometimes you can go too far, and sometimes you also need to learn to forgive those that have hurt you. The court of fear is if you are too scared of everything, then you won't move forward. The court of sorrow, it's kind of the same way as with the court of fear. It's if you if you stay in one place, you're not going to be able to move forward. You're not going to be able to heal. And if you can't do that, then you're staying in the same place. You're not actually progressing, becoming a better character. And each one has this kind of core flaw that you bear this emotion, and not even just that, but depending on what court you have, you feed off of certain emotions from people. Just kind of being around them, you can harvest what you call glamour. This is a rather physical manifestation of one's emotions, and it is also food for you. You do not really gain nutrition by eating like regular human food. You gain nutrition by feeding on glamour. And also, another really cool aspect is the magic system. It is actually not like you're just sitting there casting a fucking spell. You're really making deals. You have this force called the Weird. And the Weird expects whatever you take, you are giving something in return. And it takes it very fucking literally. You could also like bind people's words. It's kind of like saying make a deal with the devil, except for where you play as the devil, and your ultimate goal is to try and catch everything off guard whenever you make a contract or a clause, and you have to be incredibly specific, which is something that I really like about this game. And not even just that, but the story elements that you could tackle. I don't really recommend this for people who are super, super sensitive, but at the same time I kind of do. It's a very weird thing to talk about. Therapy and we could have therapy in video games. Can video games be art? I say yes. Can tabletop games be art? Most definitely. I would actually go so far as to say Changeling the Lost, it's definitely a work of art. And if you have a really, really good storyteller, it could be one of the greatest role-playing experiences of your fucking life. Same thing with Wraith the Oblivion. Wraith the Oblivion, yes, it is difficult to play because of how it was made, but it was also made intentionally difficult to play, which is something that I actually really do respect. And what can we really do? What can you do in this game? Besides, you know, it's there's also a theme of not being able to return home. You see, whenever you were kidnapped and you come back, you find that there is someone or something else living your life for you. And this thing could be you in any which way, except for you are also a separate entity. This is what you call a fetch. The fetch, could be incredibly sadistic in the sense of it's destroying your life completely and it's hurting the ones you love, or maybe it's you, but even better. It was you that didn't necessarily have any problems. It was, he or she or they excelled in all kinds of different ways. They were the straight A student. They were the good Samaritans. But when you come back, what do you do? If it's a good Samaritan, do you try and take back your place in the world, even though you're inevitably and irreparably changed, or do you try to accept what happened and live and let live, or what do you do? And this is also one of the most amazing things in the game. Like in a campaign, I actually figured to have one of my players encounter their fetch, and my player asked, based on the situation, he asked the fetch, based on the situation, which one of us is the real original person? And the fetch actually gives an incredibly valid answer. And I don't think I've never heard anyone say this, but the fetch goes, neither of us. The moment that you stepped into the hedge and I was created was the moment that the original ceased to exist. This is a ship of Theseus argument. The ship of Theseus it's a thought experiment in which, say, you have one ship, and piece by piece, you take it apart, but at the same time you add new parts in, and then you take the old pieces, and then piece by piece you build a new one, which is the original ship. My argument is the original ship, from the very moment that you took even the first nail, it ceased to exist. It's whenever you're adding the human element that for some people it can be rather offensive, and I do completely understand that. But we're talking about this from this perspective. So what I'm saying is this game, it hits it can hit an emotional core in all the right ways. You could do some really, really good character drama. Uh, and I definitely want to see. I would actually love to see a live action TV adaptation to Changeling the Lost. If I have to work on it and create characters that could be so emotionally resonant, where you could really feel something, like there is heart to it, I'd want to. I would definitely take every chance. But I want to be able to kind of get this game the recognition that I think it deserves. If you like this video, it's just rambling. Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. But I guess that'll be all. Peace out.